North Korea Sariwon GDP growth scenario. 56. Agricultural hub, inland transportation hub, creating the miracle on the Taedong River. North Korean Workers' Party can do a market economy. After denuclearization, Sariwon will enter a market economy and usher in an era of $20,000 per capita GDP enjoyed by a population of 650,000 within 20 years. Sariwon's GDP is $1.3 billion in 2027, which is set as the benchmark year for transitioning to a market economy immediately after denuclearization. It ranks in the middle among 16 major cities in North Korea. In 2027, Sariwon's GDP per capita starts at $3,800. This is higher than the national average of $1,700 in North Korea and places it in the middle among the country's 16 major cities. Sariwon City is the provincial capital of North Hwanghae Province in North Korea. It is a transportation hub where the Gyeongui Line and the Hwanghae Youth Line intersect and where the expressway connecting Pyongyang and Kaesong passes through. With an area of 188 square kilometers and a population of 350,000, it has developed significantly as an economic city as well as an educational and cultural city in North Hwanghae Province. The Pyongyang-Kaesong Expressway opened in 1992, and transportation infrastructure is well established. The most decisive feature of Sariwon is its location. It is located approximately 148 kilometers in a straight line from Seoul City Hall, with the vast Jaeryeong Plain to the west and Gyeongam Mountain to the northeast. It is located as an intermediate hub on the Pyongyang-Kaesong Expressway, approximately 90 kilometers from Pyongyang, 1 hour by car, and approximately 60 kilometers from Kaesong, 45 minutes by car. North Hwanghae Province is an agricultural hinterland of Pyongyang with a structure in which heavy industry is suppressed, and Sariwon's economic contribution is estimated at approximately $400 million and its GDP per capita at approximately $1,080. Sariwon is higher than Wonsan's $800 or Haiju's $900, but it is still lower than the national average of about $1,700 in North Korea. This reflects the characteristics of an agrarian-centered economy. Located in a fertile plain, it is known as North Korea's premier agricultural city, and an agricultural experimental station dating back to the Japanese colonial period still serves that purpose. The Jaeryeong Plain is one of the most fertile plains on the Korean peninsula, and even before the division, it had a reputation that rice from Hwanghae Province is the best in the world. It is a transportation hub where the Gyeongui Line and the Hwanghae Youth Line intersect, and where the expressway connecting Pyongyang and Kaesong passes through. The Gyeongui Line Pyongyang-Kaesong Seoul, the Hwanghae Youth Line Sariwon Haeju, and the Pyongyang-Kaesong Expressway all meet at Sariwon. Once the Gyeongui Line high-speed railway is connected after denuclearization, travel time from Seoul to Sariwon will be reduced to less than 1 hour, and from Pyongyang to Sariwon to 30 minutes. Sariwon has large deposits of limestone, so heavy industries utilizing cement are well developed. The 2-8 cement factory is the most famous, and the cement produced here is of very high quality and is exported overseas. Bongsan County in Sariwon City is the birthplace of Bongsan Talchum, and the performance was held under Gyeongam on the Dano Festival in May. Tourism is well developed, and the most famous places include Gyeongam Fortress and Jongbang Fortress. Gyeongam Fortress is located southwest of Sariwon, and many foreigners and overseas Koreans visit it because of the park. Bongsan Talchum is a traditional art form with the potential to be listed as a UNESCO Intangible Cultural Heritage, and it can be transformed into a cultural tourism resource after denuclearization. This is the current status and master plan for Sariwon City by district. Sariwon City, covering 188 square kilometers, is divided into 7 development zones based on geographical and functional characteristics. Zone 1 is the Sariwon Station Area and Logistics Complex, an area of approximately 20 square kilometers around the intersection of the Gyeongui Line and the Hwanghae Youth Line. The fact that Sariwon Station is the junction where the Gyeongui Line and the Hwanghae Youth Line meet is the key basis for the development of this area. A junction of the national railway network inevitably becomes a place where freight and people converge. The master plan designs this area as a key hub for inland logistics on the Korean peninsula. Sariwon Station will be designed as an intermediate stop for the Pyongyang-Kaesong Seoul high-speed railway, with passenger and freight functions physically separated. To the north of the station, a bus terminal, taxi, and rental car integrated facility will be placed as a passenger transfer complex, and to the south of the station, a large-scale freight marshalling yard and an inland container depot ICD will be installed. The role of the ICD is to ensure that agricultural products from South Hwanghae Province, cement and coal from North Hwanghae Province, and finished manufacturing products from Pyongyang are all classified here and exported to Incheon Port or directly to Haeju Port through the Kaesong Industrial Complex. To put it simply, the Sariwon ICD serves as a large courier hub that collects all export cargo from the western inland region of North Korea and sorts them into the optimal route. Station area development concentrates 2 business-type 3- to 4-star hotels, shopping malls, and amenities within a 1-kilometer radius. We implement a triple complex logistics terminal for roads, railways, and freight trucks in conjunction with the Sariwon IC on the Pyongyang-Kaesong Expressway. The investment scale is approximately 800 billion won for mixed-use development around the station area, and approximately 300 billion won for ICD construction, totaling approximately 1.1 trillion won. Funding is secured through technical cooperation with the Korea Railroad Corporation (KORAIL), ADB Transport Infrastructure Loans, and the BTL method for private station area development. The GDP contribution from logistics and transportation services is approximately $300 million annually, based on the 10th year of the base scenario. Zone 2 is the Jaeryeong Plain Agriculture and Food Processing Cluster, an area of approximately 45 square kilometers along the western Jaeryeong River. To the west, the vast Jaeryeong Plain stretches out, serving as the core of Sariwon's agricultural economy. The Jaeryeong River is the agricultural lifeline supplying water resources to this plain, and the alluvial plains along its banks possess the highest level of agricultural productivity on the Korean peninsula. The master plan designs this area as the Hwanghae Province Agri-Food Export Complex, a processing food factory complex for instant rice, rice crackers, rice noodles, and makgeolli, using rice produced in the Jaeryeong Plain as raw material, will be established west of the Jaeryeong River. If CJ Cheiljedang, Nongshim, and Pulmyone establish a joint factory in this complex, it will be possible to export premium processed foods with the Hwanghae rice brand at the forefront. We are upgrading the Sariwon Agricultural Experiment Station into a modern agricultural research center. The variety data and soil research materials from this experimental station, which has a history of over 100 years dating back to the Japanese colonial period, are a valuable legacy that can be integrated into modern smart farm technology through cooperation with the Rural Development Administration of Korea. We are promoting irrigation and drainage modernization projects along the Jaeryeong River. By automating and smartening the currently aging waterways and drainage systems, we can increase yields per unit area by 30–50%. This is the fastest way to innovate agricultural productivity in Sariwon. The investment scale is approximately 500 billion won for the food processing complex, approximately 100 billion won for the modernization of the agricultural testing station, and approximately 300 billion won for the modernization of the irrigation system, totaling approximately 900 billion won. The funding sources are 50% FDI from Korean food companies, 30% ADB agricultural modernization loans, and 20% Inter-Korean Cooperation Fund. The annual GDP contribution from agriculture, food processing, and exports is approximately 500 million based on the 15th year of the base scenario. This is the single largest growth driver of Sariwon's total GDP. Zone 3 is an area of approximately 30 square kilometers in the eastern limestone mountainous region, consisting of a 2/8 cement factory and a construction materials industrial complex. Sariwon City has large deposits of limestone, so heavy industry utilizing cement is well developed. The 2/8 cement factory is known as the producer of North Korea's highest quality cement, and the cement produced has been supplied first to major construction sites in Pyongyang. This is the master plan. Cement is the first material to run out once an infrastructure construction boom begins across North Korea following denuclearization. The production capacity of the 2/8 cement plant will be expanded to 5 million tons per year, which is 5 times the current estimated annual capacity of 1 million tons. To this end, we are converting the aging wet process to the latest dry process with 40% higher energy efficiency. 50% of the expanded production will be supplied to North Korea's domestic construction demand, and the remaining 50% will be re-exported to South Korea via the Kaesong-Seoul Gyeongui Line railway. While domestic cement prices in South Korea are falling due to oversupply, if North Korean cement obtains KS certification, it can enter the South Korean construction market as price-competitive imported cement. In addition to cement, we are promoting the diversification of the construction materials industry by adding production lines to manufacture limestone powder as an agricultural soil conditioner, lightweight foamed concrete as an insulating building material, and gypsum boards. This is the core diversification strategy for Sariwon Heavy Industries to break away from its dependence on a single product. The investment scale is approximately 500 billion won for factory expansion and modernization, and approximately 200 billion won for construction material diversification lines, totaling approximately 700 billion won. The funding consists of 40% from the joint venture FDI of Korea's Sangyeong C&E and 60% from the Korea Development Bank's Inter-Korean Industrial Cooperation Loan. The annual GDP contribution from cement and building materials production and exports is approximately $300 million. Zone 4 is the Sariwon High-Tech Manufacturing Economic Zone, a northern plain area of approximately 35 square kilometers. By utilizing Sariwon's location and transportation infrastructure, it can serve as a base to complement and expand the Kaesong Industrial Complex. While the Kaesong Industrial Complex is 70 kilometers from Seoul, Sariwon is further at 208 kilometers, however. It is closer to Pyongyang at 90 kilometers, making it an intermediate hub capable of utilizing labor from either the south or the north. The master plan designs this area as an economic zone specialized in food, agricultural machinery, and light industries. While the Kaesong Industrial Complex is centered on electronic components and textiles, the Sariwon Economic Zone specializes in agriculture-related manufacturing, including agricultural machinery, food processing equipment, packaging materials, fertilizers, and pesticides. As Sariwon is North Korea's premier agricultural city, agriculture-related manufacturing forms the most natural industrial ecosystem. Specifically, we will build assembly plants for tractors, cultivators, transplanters, and combines in joint ventures with Korea's LS Mtron and Dongyang Mulsan, and attract manufacturing plants for vinyl greenhouses and irrigation equipment, packaging materials for agricultural products, and subdivision and packaging plants for fertilizers and pesticides. Agricultural materials produced at these factories are directly supplied to agricultural sites in South and North Hwanghae Provinces, while simultaneously being exported to Southeast Asia and Africa. The investment scale amounts to approximately 1.8 trillion won, comprising about 800 billion won for economic zone infrastructure and about 1 trillion won in FDI for attracting joint venture factories. Funding is comprised of 60% FDI from Korean agricultural and food machinery companies and 40% from the Inter-Korean Cooperation Fund. The contribution to GDP is approximately $400 million annually from manufacturing production and exports. Zone 5 is the Gyeongam-san and Gyeongbang-san Historical, Cultural, and Ecological Tourism Zone, which is an area of approximately 30 square kilometers in the northeastern mountainous region. The most famous tourist attractions include Gyeongam Sansong Fortress and Gyeongbang Sansong Fortress. Gyeongam Sansong Fortress is located southwest of Sariwon City, and it is visited by many foreigners and overseas Koreans due to the presence of a park. Gyeongam-san is a gentle mountain with an elevation of less than 400 meters, making it easily accessible from the city center and easy to develop into a public park and tourist destination. The master plan designs this area as a cultural tourism complex centered on Bongsan mask dance, A dedicated performance hall and experience center for Bongsan Talchum will be constructed at the foot of Mount Gyeongam. Bongsan Talchum is a comprehensive performing art that combines mask making, dance techniques, music, and storytelling, offering a unique experience to Japanese, Chinese, and Western tourists interested in Korean traditional culture. Pursuing inscription as a UNESCO intangible cultural heritage will cause international recognition to skyrocket. We are restoring and maintaining Gyeongam Sansong Fortress and Gyeongbang Sansong Fortress as historical and cultural heritage tour courses. We are developing a package that combines fortress trekking, a visit to the Goguryeo tomb complex, and a hanok stay, traditional food, and pottery experience at a traditional culture experience village. Since Sariwon is located in the middle of the Pyongyang-Kaesong Expressway, the Pyongyang-Sariwon Kaesong three-city package, which adds a half-day to one-night stay in Sariwon on the way to Kaesong after touring Pyongyang, is a realistic tour product. The investment scale is approximately 150 billion won for Bongsan Mask Dance cultural tourism facilities and approximately 50 billion won for fortress restoration and trekking course development. The total is approximately 200 billion won. The funding comes from the UNESCO Cultural Heritage Fund and the Korea Tourism Organization's Inter-Korean Tourism Cooperation Project budget. The annual GDP contribution from tourism and cultural services is approximately $100 million. Zone 6 is the Sariwon Smart New City and Education Complex, a southern flat area of approximately 25 square kilometers. We are developing a new city to accommodate the population flowing into Sariwon after denuclearization and to provide education and medical services for the entire North Hwanghae Province. The master plan develops a new city accommodating 150,000 people on undeveloped flat land south of the existing city center. The core anchor of the new city is Sariwon Agricultural College. It will be developed into a specialized university for agriculture, food, and life sciences, encompassing the current agricultural experiment station, and a sister university relationship will be established with the Korea Agricultural University. This university serves as a workforce pipeline supplying graduates to the local agri-food industry. As for the medical complex, a new 500-bed general hospital covering the entire North Hwanghae Province will be established. If the Korean medical system is transplanted through technical cooperation between the Health Insurance Review and Assessment Service of Korea and Bundang Seoul National University Hospital, residents along the Kaesong-Sariwon-Pyongyang route will be able to access appropriate medical services. The scale of investment is approximately 1.5 trillion won for new city infrastructure, approximately 300 billion won for an agricultural college, and approximately 200 billion won for a general hospital, totaling approximately 2 trillion won. The funding comes from a development led by Korea LH Corporation and an ADB Urban Development and Health Loan. The annual GDP contribution from education, healthcare, and housing services is approximately $200 million. Zone 7 is the Jaeryeong River waterfront, ecological, and recreational zone, covering an area of approximately 15 square kilometers along the western side of the Jaeryeong River. The Jaeryeong River is the largest river in Hwanghae Province, flowing along the western boundary of Sariwon City. With its wide width, abundant water volume, and beautiful surrounding scenery, it has high value as a natural recreational space within the city. The master plan develops the banks of the Jaeryeong River into the Sariwon Green waterfront. Walking paths, bicycle lanes, and lawns are being created on both sides of the river, similar in concept to Seoul's Han River Park. Water leisure facilities for canoes, kayaks, and water bikes will be installed on the river. We will create a fishing park and a waterside restaurant street utilizing the natural fish resources of the Jaeryeong River. A waterfront park accessible within 10 minutes of the city center has the effect of improving the quality of life for Sariwon citizens while increasing the length of stay for visiting tourists. The investment scale for the waterfront park development is approximately 200 billion won. The funding source is the Ministry of Environment's Inter-Korean Green Infrastructure Cooperation Fund. The contribution to GDP is approximately $0.5 billion for leisure and services. This is the Sariwon GDP growth scenario. Sariwon's 5 major growth engines are agriculture and food processing, logistics and transportation, cement and building materials, agricultural machinery and light industry manufacturing, and tourism and services. We use Changsha, China, as a benchmark for comparison. Changsha grew 17-fold in 22 years, from a per capita GDP of approximately $1,200 in 2000 to about $20,000 in 2022. There are structural similarities between Changsha and Sariwon in that Changsha is a city focused on agriculture and food, China's leading rice production base, and a transportation hub, the junction of the Gyeongui Railway Line. The basic scenario is the Changsha model, in which opening proceeds as expected after denuclearization, but continues stably without any special acceleration or shock. During the 3-year period immediately following the denuclearization agreement, construction of the Sariwon Station Complex Logistics Terminal will begin, the modernization of the 2/8 cement plant will commence, the irrigation system for the Jaeryeong Plain will be improved, and freight trains on the Gyeongui Line will be reopened. During this period, the city's GDP will be approximately $800 million, the population 370,000, and the GDP per capita approximately 2,160. Over the period of 4 to 10 years, the ICD will be completed, 50 agri-food processing companies will be operational, an annual cement production of 3 million tons will be achieved, and Bongsan Mask Dance cultural tourism will attract 100,000 visitors annually. The city's GDP will reach approximately $2 billion, the population $430,000, and the GDP per capita approximately $4,650. Over the period of 11 to 20 years, the opening of the Gyeongui Line high-speed railway will complete the 1-hour travel distance between Sariwon and Seoul. The agri-food processing complex will be fully operational, and 100 manufacturing companies will move into the economic zone. The city's GDP will reach approximately $5.5 billion, the population 540,000, and the GDP per capita approximately $10,200. Over a period of 32 years, a GDP per capita of $20,000 is achieved. At this point, the GDP is approximately $13 billion, and the population is 650,000. The optimistic scenario is a case where the Gyeongui Line high-speed railway is completed early within 7 to 10 years after denuclearization, based on the Uijeongbu-Suwon metropolitan satellite city model, and Sariwon is effectively incorporated into the Pyongyang-Seoul metropolitan area. The fact that it is 148 kilometers from Seoul will take on a completely different meaning after the high-speed rail connection. Just as Suwon, 30 kilometers from Seoul, and Cheonan, 90 kilometers from Seoul, have grown explosively as satellite cities of the metropolitan area, Sariwon, 148 kilometers from Seoul, will also become a 1-hour journey from Seoul once the Gyeongui Line high-speed rail is completed, allowing people to walk the same route. 10 years after denuclearization, with the completion of the Gyeongui Line high-speed railway, explosive development of the Sariwon station area, and the concentration of branch factories and logistics centers of companies from the capital area in Sariwon, the city's GDP will reach approximately $5 billion, or its population $520,000, and its GDP per capita approximately $9,600. Under an optimistic scenario, a per capita GDP of $20,000 is achieved approximately 20 years after denuclearization. The GDP reaches $13 billion and the population is 650,000. The pessimistic scenario involves slow opening and continued reliance on agriculture. This scenario assumes that the implementation of denuclearization is intermittent. The construction of the Gyeongui Line high-speed railway is delayed, and the entry of South Korean companies is passive. This is a scenario in which, even 10 years after denuclearization, the city's GDP remains at approximately $1 billion, and its GDP per capita at approximately $2,600, and it takes about 50 years to reach a GDP per capita of $20,000, which is achieved only in 2077. This is a worst-case scenario where the dependence on agriculture persists, delaying the transition to high-value-added industries. This is a comprehensive estimate of Sariwon's GDP contribution by industry. It is based on the baseline scenario, 20 years after denuclearization. The logistics and transportation services sector accounts for 25% of total GDP, with an annual value of approximately $800 million based on the completion of an ICD, rail, and road integrated hub. This is Sariwon's largest single contributing industry. The investment requires approximately 1.1 trillion won and is funded through ADB loans and technical cooperation with Korea. The agriculture and food processing sector accounts for 22% of GDP, with annual exports of processed foods based in the Jaeryeong Plain amounting to approximately $700 million. The investment requires approximately 900 billion won and is funded through FDI from Korean food companies and ADB agricultural modernization loans. The manufacturing sector, including agricultural machinery and light industry, accounts for about $600 million annually, or 19% of GDP. The investment will cost approximately 1.8 trillion won and will be funded through FDI from Korean manufacturing companies and the Inter-Korean Cooperation Fund. The cement and construction materials sector accounts for approximately $400 million annually, or 12% of GDP. The investment will cost approximately 700 billion won and will be financed through a joint FDI with a Korean cement company and a loan from the Korea Development Bank. The education, healthcare, and services sectors account for 16% of GDP, with an annual output of approximately 500 million. The investment requires approximately 2 trillion won and is funded through a public-private partnership with LH Corporation and a health loan from the ADB. The tourism and culture sector accounts for 5% of GDP with an annual value of approximately $150 million. The investment requires approximately 200 billion won. Other domestic consumption and retail amount to approximately $0.5 billion annually, accounting for 1.5% of GDP. Adding this up, 20 years after denuclearization, Sariwon City's GDP is approximately $3.2 billion. Its population is 500,000, and its GDP per capita is approximately $6,400. The total investment required is approximately 8 trillion won, which will be executed in installments over 20 years. Sariwon's decisive strength is becoming an inland logistics hub on the Korean peninsula. The reason Sariwon is projected to be one of the fastest-growing cities in North Korea after denuclearization is that its two assets, agriculture and transportation, are perfectly combined. Sariwon is the only city located at the center of the largest agricultural production area in the western inland of the Korean peninsula, while simultaneously serving as the sole intermediate hub on the shortest land route connecting Pyongyang, Kaesong, and Seoul. The moment the Gyeongui Line high-speed railway is completed, Sariwon will transform from a simple agricultural city into a new economic crossroads where the Pyongyang and Seoul economic zones meet. Instant rice made from Hwanghae dough rice is exported from Kaesong to Incheon via Sariwon ICD, and when a circular economy is formed in which Korean fertilizers and agricultural machinery are supplied from Kaesong through Sariwon to the rice paddies and fields of South Hwanghae Province, Sariwon finally transforms its identity from North Korea's premier agricultural city to North Korea's premier agri-food export hub. Next time, I will discuss Dansheon's GDP growth scenario. Thank you.